Over the past couple of months, I've been training for the London Marathon. I've had plenty of time and miles on feet, with plenty more to go, but thankfully I've had great shoes to help me get through it. Here are the shoes that I've been using during my training to help me get to the finish line at the London Marathon. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel where I'm actually documenting my training and my build up to the London Marathon that's happening on April 27th, 2025. Today we're looking at my shoe rotation and why I'm using these specific shoes and how I'm using these specific shoes throughout my training cycle. So when it comes to disclosures, none of these shoes were supplied by any of the brands. I bought all of these shoes by my own money and no one is paying me to make this video. All my thoughts and opinions based on these shoes are all my thoughts and opinions on these shoes. I realize that some runners may like or dislike some of the shoes I'm about to share, and that's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all. These are just the shoes that I'm using in my current rotation and the ones that I actually enjoy using. Also note that I am not a shoe reviewer whatsoever. If you are into that, go visit my friend over at Kafuzi. He has great reviews on a lot of the shoes, some of the ones I'm actually going to be sharing today. So with that being said, let's take a look at each one of the categories of shoes that I'm going to be going through. As I stated before, I have specific shoes that are used for specific runs or specific types of runs. Ideally, runners don't necessarily need as many shoes as I have or I'm going to be displaying, but I feel like it's actually nice to have a good rotation of shoes. I think actually having 3 pair of shoes throughout your whole marathon training cycle is sufficient enough, but again, I like having a specific rotation of shoes. I like to place my shoes into 5 different categories: daily trainers, tempo shoes, interval shoes, long run shoes, and race day shoes. Now that's 5 shoes, and within each category, or at least some of the categories, I have a couple of shoes that kind of fill those spaces. Now I won't necessarily go into too much detail when it comes to each one of these shoes, like what the weight is, what the drop is, or anything like that, or midsole or anything like that. It's more of just kind of like a roundabouts of what I actually enjoy about these specific shoes. And I will go over why I use these shoes and again, how I use them in this rotation building up to the London Marathon. So first things first, let's start with the daily trainers. So when it comes to daily trainers, these are your workhorse shoes when it comes to running. They pretty much get the most mileage out of any of the shoes that I'm actually running or I'm going to be showing today. These shoes most likely get the most amount of mileage throughout my whole training cycle, and I pretty much just blast through them. And when you're following the 80-20 rule when it comes to running, 80% are easy and 20% are harder, 80% of my runs are done in these shoes. Now I have 2 favorite daily trainers when it comes to this training cycle or current training cycle, and I do have another, but I haven't used that one in quite a bit. The 2 that I switch between are the Asics Nova Blast 5 and the New Balance Fresh Foam 1080 V13s. Both of these shoes are great daily trainers, and I feel like I use both of them a little bit differently. I'm going to start with the Nova Blast. The Nova Blast, I feel like it can handle all the miles and then some. These shoes find a way to actually add a little bit more pep to my step when it comes to doing any kind of daily training. They can pick up the pace when you need to, and they also can handle all the slower, easier effort miles too. Like if you were to do a fartlek session with a couple of speed bursts within a short to medium long-ish run, or do any kind of like strides after you're done running, this is the perfect shoe for it, or at least I feel like it's the perfect shoe for it. On the flip side though, the 1080 V13 I use in a different way. I feel like these are great for easy effort miles with no frills, no strides, no fartleks, nothing, just kind of cruising miles. Now they are a little bit heavier than the Nova Blasts, but I feel like they're more cushionier than the Nova Blasts. They kind of give you that easy ride feeling while you're running, which is exactly what I need on my easy effort runs. Now I know that version 14 is out now. I actually have 2 pair of version 13s because I actually like this one so much. Version 14 I feel like is a little bit too peppy for me. It's a little bit different. That's why I like version 13. That's what I'm currently using. Now anytime I'm heading out for an easy effort run, I feel like either one of these shoes I can pick up and just use. Now I feel like I lean more toward the Nova Blast 5 more than I do with the 1080 version 13s. And the only reason being is because they have a little bit more pep to their step than the 1080s. Although again, they are both great daily trainers. Now, whenever I want to spice things up a little bit and add a little bit of speed into my runs, whether it be on the track or the road, I find myself always gravitating towards the Puma Deviate Nitro 2s. Now, these shoes just look fast, or at least they kind of look fast. They've been worn quite a bit and they're kind of like not as bright as they used to, but they're still bright shoes, bright orange, lightweight shoes. Now these do have a plate within them that makes them a little bit more springier. Some runners may actually use these as a one shoe for all kind of thing. They use it for like a jack of all trades kind of a shoe. I'm not necessarily a fan of doing that when it comes to like easy effort runs or anything like that. I find that these aren't necessarily as cushiony, as I would like them to be. So I kind of reserve these ones for any kind of speed sessions or intervals. And sometimes I feel like I need a little bit of a break from carbon plated shoes and I need more cushion. I take these shoes out when I'm doing any kind of repeats, whether it be 400 meter repeats all the way up to mile repeats. And I mainly use these ones on the track. I've done it on the road a couple of times, but most of the time I save these ones for track workouts. Now I've also used the Saucony Endorphin Pro 2s and Pro 3s for similar types of workouts, but mainly I've been gravitating towards the Puma DV8 Nitro 2s. I know they have newer versions out. I just have the older versions because they don't have that many miles on them currently. When it comes to tempo runs, these are the bread and butter of marathon training, at least in my opinion. And I have two different shoes for a very good reason. Both of these I use for marathon pace or effort kinds of runs, but in different ways. One of them I use for short to medium runs with marathon paced effort in them. The other one I use for long runs with marathon paced effort in them. And I'll start with Saucony. Now to give you a little bit of backstory, I've used the Saucony Endorphin Speed 2s for the longest time. I pretty much had like 5 pair of those because that was probably my favorite running shoe like forever, for all time. I feel like Saucony Endorphin Speed 2 has been my favorite shoe. And it's been my go-to shoe when it comes to marathon paced effort, when it comes to any kind of run whatsoever. I don't use the Saucony Endorphin Speed line for any kind of like easy effort runs. I use them for marathon paced workouts. When the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4 came out, I found that it was kind of like a mash between the Speed 2s and the Speed 3s. The Saucony Endorphin Speed 4 is a shoe I pick up when I'm doing any kind of tempo runs or longer interval runs within a short to medium run. The main reason being is because I feel like it doesn't necessarily have as much cushion as the other shoe I'm going to be going over in a second. But this shoe does have a nylon plate within it, and I feel like that actually works really well when it comes to marathon effort runs. So with the nylon plate inside here and the speed roll technology, I feel like I'm kind of just flying in these shoes. I really enjoy using these specific shoes for marathon pace workouts within a short to medium run. So if I'm doing a 6-mile run with 4 miles at marathon pace or a 9-mile run with like 3 by 2 mile repeats, that's when I break out this specific shoe. But there is another shoe that I use in my lineup that I feel like has the same qualities with no plate and has the same kind of result. And that shoe is the Asics Superblast 2. Now these shoes may look a little chunky, but you know what? They really can rip. Whenever I have a long run that's over like 12 miles or so that has marathon paced effort in there, I always pick up these bad boys. There's 2 different foams in this shoe, one that actually helps with the cushioning and one that helps with the speed. So there's like no plate in here whatsoever. I'm not sure how a shoe so chunky like this, with a big booty like this, can produce the same speeds as the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4 on fatigued legs going a farther distance. But it does that without batting an eye. Now some may say that why not use the Nova Blasts for the same exact reason as this specific shoe? I mean, they're cheaper. And I technically agree. They are cheaper and they are pretty much similar shoes. The shoes technically can be swapped out if need be, but I feel like there's a big difference between the 2 shoes when I'm actually running in them. My legs don't necessarily feel trashed in shoes like the Super Blasts. They don't feel trashed at all doing long runs with speed workouts in them. But the thing is, with the Nova Blasts, that's kind of where I get the feeling of just having my legs just feel like garbage the day afterwards. Don't get me wrong, I feel like my legs do feel sore afterwards, but I feel like when I put these shoes on, they feel less sore, I guess. If I had to pick between the Nova Blasts and the Super Blasts, I would probably pick the Super Blasts every time because I feel like this is kind of like a do-it-all shoe. It can do easy paces, it can do long runs, it can do speed sessions. I feel like I use the speed sessions for this shoe only at marathon effort. So I feel like I would actually use this shoe for a lot more things other than some of the other shoes that I have, but again, each shoe has their purpose in my rotation. To me, I feel like long run shoes need cushion, something to absorb all the impact of all the miles logged on your feet when it comes to several hours on feet. How much cushion? Well, all of the cushion, or at least for me. I have two shoes in this category. One is the New Balance More V4s, and the other one is the Asics Nimbus 25s. Now, technically, both of these shoes, I can use them for the same thing, although I use them in different ways. Either way, both of these for me are great for logging long miles. I tend to use the Nimbus 25 for the recovery runs, whereas I use the More V4 for the long runs or the long haul runs. So the New Balance More V4, this is a hefty boy. This is a big one. I feel like it's a little bit easier to move the More V4 a little bit better than the Asics Nimbus 25. I feel like with the Asics Nimbus 25, I feel like this one, I feel like I'm just have like bricks on my feet, so I use this one for recovery miles when it doesn't necessarily matter so much how far I'm going or how fast I'm going. It's just kind of like recovery miles. That's how I use this one. This one here, the New Balance More V4, I love using this one for longer effort runs. I feel like I can kind of move a little bit better in this one. I can hit the paces I need to, even though I'm not necessarily worried about pace. I feel like I can use this one a little bit more than the Nimbus 25. Both are great shoes for long runs or recovery miles. And finally, race day shoes. These are the shoes that get you to the finish line. These shoes are meant to be light, they're meant to be fast, and most of the time they have carbon plates in them. Now, I technically haven't chosen a race day shoe just yet, but I am doing some beta testing on a current shoe that I have right now. And that shoe is the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2s. Now, I technically actually haven't chosen this as my race day shoe, but I feel like I'm leaning more towards that. I've only gotten one run in it so far, and it feels kind of weird, but they're definitely a wild and fun shoe. And I think the best part about this shoe is the name of the foam that's in here. It's called Incredi-Run. It's like kind of running on marshmallows. That's what it feels like. Like I said, they're fun and they're wild shoes. They definitely have a lot more cushiony of a feel, but they're also very fast shoes. Some may find them to be a little bit unstable, but I only necessarily found them unstable going at easier effort paces. When I started to pick up the pace a little bit more, these shoes really came alive. And I feel like they actually firmed up a little bit more while I was going faster at marathon pace. Now, I have more testing to do with these specific shoes to see if they're actually going to be my race day shoes, but I wanted to give you some real-time feedback when it comes to these specific shoes based off of a run I did earlier this week.
So this morning I am testing out the Saucony Elite 2s on a quick speed session, hoping it all goes well. Let's get after it. So the initial thoughts are they're very squishy and very weird feeling. But this is just the warm-up portion of it right now. I'm gonna get to the speedier portion. I might take themselves off. Yeah, I think so. Mile 1. Mile 2. And 3 miles. Whew. Ah, that felt good. That felt really good. Whew. Definitely think I overdressed. Yeah. I know. I mean, like I said, I only have 2 layers on. And I feel like this is too much. Although the windbreaker did really well. So that's good.
Mine just trapped the heat.
All right, just wrapped up a little over 6.25 miles. And yeah, these shoes are definitely some wild shoes. I feel like my legs are gonna feel sore tomorrow. Maybe, I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah, definitely some wild shoes. I believe I hit the pace that I needed to, and I felt really good doing it, which is actually a surprise.
So there you have it, folks. These are the shoes that are in my current rotation for my London Marathon build-up. I'm sure I'll come across more shoes throughout my training because I have quite a bit more to go, but these are the ones I'm currently using in my rotation and why I'm actually using them. I'm not saying you need to go out and buy any of the shoes that I'm currently using. These are just the ones that I enjoy using during this London Marathon training build-up. At the time of filming this video, there are about 50 days until the London Marathon, and I couldn't be more excited about it. There's still more work to be done and plenty of weeks ahead, so be sure to hit the like and subscribe down below and follow along on my journey to build up to a 2 hour and 52 minute marathon at the London Marathon. As always, be kind and keep the good vibes going. Let's get after it.